The other day I did a video on replacing the anode rod in the water heater on the '08 Tiffin Phaeton motorhome, and I got some good responses. I should have done a little bit more in-depth because there are people out there who really don't have the mechanical skills and need a little help, kind of a follow along. And so anyway, I wanted to do a little bit of a video on replacing the pressure temperature valve on the water heater, because mine, with all the calcium buildup that you get in the water heater, occasionally it'll get up into that relief valve and it'll cause it to leak, and that's what's happened to mine. So I'm gonna kind of go in depth on how to replace this thing, and we'll show you that. So thanks for watching. Okay, here's the water heater from this section of the motorhome, and I wanted to show you, see if we can do hopefully that sun isn't really a problem, but here's the pressure relief, and you can see there's some blue corrosion, which is a clear indicator that it's been leaking. And so it looks like I'm going to have to take this off. I'm going to remove this shroud first, because it's going to need to be removed in order for this to come off. And you do have, a lot of these have an on-off button, so you want to make sure that's turned off. And then we'll get a Phillips screwdriver to remove this, and then we'll be ready to see if we can get into this thing a little bit. Okay, so right now we need to remove these screws. There's a few of these Phillips screws that hold this shroud on, so I'll go ahead and remove those. Oop, I'll have to find that when it went to the ground. Kind of hard to do this with one hand. Here's another one, and okay, and got a couple more kind of hidden here. Okay. Okay, so we have the shroud removed, and now we can remove this. But before we do that, we want to make sure there's no water pressure that's built up on this thing. There's a good possibility that water has built up some pressure, and so we want that to be relieved before we try to take this thing off. So standing off to the side, now this has been off, no electricity, no propane has been on, so this is cold. You don't have to worry about it burning you, but let's see if we got any. Yeah, we do have a little bit of pressure on this, a little bit of built-up pressure. So we're going to go ahead and relieve that pressure so that it's just doesn't come blasting out of there when you remove this guy. So with a large crescent wrench, you can get on this guy, give it a turn. This one actually turned pretty easy. I think I might have tried to loosen this already once, but we'll go ahead and take this guy out. And you can see a lot of corrosion around here, around this area, a lot of corrosion. And if you look, the inside of this guy's looking pretty rough. But you noticed how easy that came apart. Well, a lot of that is because I use anti-seize grease right here. This brown colored grease is what I use to put on these things, so they do come apart easily if you have to do any work on them. So at any rate, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the camera and go get a couple of things to do, and I'll be right back. Okay, here's the new pressure relief. It's identically the same as the one I just took out, and we're going to prep it now to reinstall it. I've got some Teflon tape, and one thing you want to remember when you're doing these is that you want to put the Teflon tape in, and you want to wrap it clockwise around the fitting. That way when you're installing it, as you turn the fitting back into where it goes, the Teflon tape will be going the same direction that you're turning you're turning it this way, and the tape's going this way, so that way it won't back it off when you're installing it. And then of course the other thing I do is I use this anti-seize that I put on it, because it just helps to ensure that if you have to take it off in the future, it'll come off easily. And you don't need a lot. You just need just a little bit. You need just a little bit on here. The threads on the water heater get pretty well corroded after a while, and this kind of helps a few things. It helps to break up a little bit of that corrosion and helps you install it easier, and all that. So anyway, we're ready to put this back in. So far you can see it's pretty easy. Anybody can do this. So let's go back over, we'll install it. Okay, here we are, back to the water heater. I've got the new pressure relief, and I'm right-handed, so I'm going to switch the camera, and then you just install it in here, and you work it until you make sure your threads are catching properly. Tighten it by hand. That'll tell you that you're doing okay. So let me get my wrench. And of course, these don't have to be massively tightened. You want to get them good and snug. And I like to have mine pointing down. This is the way the factory had it, and that's fairly snug right there. Okay, so that is the installation of that. The anode rod that I replaced is right here, and that was the same process. I just backed it out, made sure there was no water pressure, had everything turned off, backed it out, and put a new one in. And you could see from my short that I did how badly this anode rod was within just a year and a half. I don't even think it was 2 years, but anyway, it was eaten up pretty badly. So anyway, this is all put back in, and it's ready to repressurize, which will do that, make sure that it's pressurized and that there's no leakage. So we're gonna test that, and I'll be right back. Okay, I've replaced the shroud here. One of the screws ended up on the ground as usual. A good suggestion might be to put down a cardboard or tarp or something, so if you do drop a screw, it's easier to find. I'll have to go get my magnet and drag it around to find it. But this guy's all installed now. I've repressurized everything. The tank is full of water. You pull this relief right here and it'll let all the air come out, and it will fill up the tank to where it's supposed to be. And that way you know that if you do turn it on, that the element, the heating element, is protected and has water around it, so you won't have any issues, any damage. And so anyway, this guy's in there. There's no more leaking water. You can see it's all clean, and so we're all set. All I have to do is turn on the switch down here to hook up to make the electrical work, or turn on the propane and call for heat, and it'll come on, and everything is fine. It's ready to go for the next trip. So anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you like these kind of videos, let me know. Comment and like, share, and subscribe, and we'll have more of them. But this is Chris from Between the Rumble Strips with Chris, and thanks for watching, and happy motorhoming. Happy motorhoming.